And you are good.
So I need to mute every time? Is that what's going on?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight is August 24th, 2020. I first would like to thank everyone who was on the call tonight. We apologize for the delay to the start of this meeting, but I would like to call to order the regular board meeting of the Othello School District Board of Directors. We will begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, we'd like to welcome everyone who was on the call. Appreciate you guys being with us. Again, disclosure has got to be out there. Hopefully we don't have any technical difficulties. If we do, please bear with us. Thank you. Thank you for being with us tonight. I will entertain a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion from Director Stevenson and a second from Director Prowse to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item B1, do we have any public comment? There is no public comment. I would like to remind the public that there is an avenue for you to have public comment during our virtual meetings. When the announcement is made, there is a phone number to call where you can send an email with your public comment request or even appear on a Zoom meeting. Moving on to item B2, board member discussions. Legislative report, Director Stevenson.
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. Second bullet is remind ourselves to do our board self-assessment after every meeting. Talia, how did we do last time? Did most of us do it? Okay, only a couple of us did it. Let's make sure that we fill those at the end of the meeting tonight, guys. I know this is different. I know it's not the norm, but let's go ahead and fill out the board self-assessment after the meeting. Jen, you sent us a meeting, or I don't know if it was Jen or Talia, with some possible dates for a city council joint meeting. I don't know if you, would you please speak to that?
So I sent those meetings dates to the board. So we have Tuesday, September 1st, Wednesday, September 2nd, Tuesday, September 8th, or Wednesday, September 9th.
For me, September 9th would work the best, but I guess what works best for both of us, or most of us, excuse me.
Same goes for me, Mike. September 9th works the best for me.
Same for me. September 9th would be the best.
That'll be fine with me also.
That works for me. I'm pretty open right now, so.
All right, so Jen, will you be communicating with Sean to set that up for the 9th?
I can, or yes, I will do that.
I mean, it seems how you started the conversation with him, and that's kind of why.
Right, and yes, and yeah. I guess that we probably should have a backup date just in case that does not work for city council. Or just say, this works for us and that's our only option. You come back to us if that doesn't.
I think that would work, seeing how 4 of us were good with the 9th. Well, 5
Okay.
of us, because you said you were open.
Yep. Do we want to say, they typically start at like 6:15. We typically have 7. Do we want to just say that night and leave it open to a time?
We'll find out from them what works best for them, and then relay to us, and we'll put a plan together based on the feedback from them.
Are we still going to do it if it's all Zoom?
Zoom's the only option we have right now because of OPMA changes. So, and also I'll try and come up with because that was one of the requests of one of their city council people, a very specific agenda. Also, who's leading the meeting, just so that everything is very clear and we know exactly what our plans are, so that we will, I think, want to start discussing. So our next board meeting is not until the 13th. So that if anybody has any specific topics that we want to talk about now that we want to put on the agenda, I had actually suggested with Sean that he lead the meeting, just because he's accustomed to leading meetings with a lot more council members than us, and those kinds of things. I would love to talk about housing.
No, that's fine. I think if you could just give us a couple days, show us what the agenda is like, and if there's any subjects that we specifically want to discuss, we can make it known, and we can have them incorporated to the agenda. I think that'd be fair enough.
Okay. Does anybody have any other thoughts or suggestions for a specific topic?
I would like to talk.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
You go ahead. It's okay.
Mine wasn't about a subject. I just wondered, will they set up the Zoom and invite us? Is that how that works?
Sure. I can ask them to do it that way. I think that sounds fair.
Okay.
My question or my talking point that I would like to discuss with the city is a pathway forward to, if we start planning now and we can, do a bond in the next couple of years and then build a school a couple of years after that. I mean, I know right now everybody is neck deep in COVID stuff, but if we don't start somewhat looking towards the future over the next 5 years, then 5 years we'll get here and we'll be saying, shoot, we should have thought of that 5 years ago. So I would like to know from them, if we could work together on finding an ideal place to put a new school in the future.
Okay.
Jen, I'd like to see if we could talk about fiber optics, if that's an option that could be coming into town.
Great idea. Any other, if you have any other ideas between now and whenever, I can always add them later. If you're thinking of something that pops into your head at 3 a.m., which is usually what happens for me. Please don't text me at 3 a.m., but.
City building and planning their future thoughts on direction of the way the city needs to go. They do have a plan out there, and we need to kind of work together with them on that. So in our future planning of our future schools.
Okay. I think a lot of this is like the same, in the same ideas realm.
That's great topics of discussion, guys. I think that'd be a great first meeting. Nothing else. Don't know if we'll be able to get through it all, but it's a good door opener to good collaboration with the city council. Moving on to bullet number 4, the structure of our Wajita site visit. I think our structures are limited to some type of Zoom meeting. I guess what I'd like to know is what kind of report we want from the folks at Wajitas. As I thought about this, I'm thinking, okay, do we ask them how the soft open went, what the feedback was, or are we going to ask them for their specific plan for distance learning 2.0? I need some ideas so we can relate to them what the expectation is for our site visit on the 8th.
I would like to have more time with staff. Maybe we could have like a certified Zoom, a Zoom with certified staff, and a Zoom with classified staff. In theory, we'd be able to have more time than just 30 minutes. I'm not sure if a Zoom with families and parents will work. What does anybody else think about that part? I just don't think that a family thing is going to work this time.
I agree. I agree with you, Jen, on that. I would like to
Yeah.
have more time with the staff.
Yeah, I don't think that family, that's gonna work. I really don't.
Okay, so if we could draft, Talia, an agenda, get it to us as soon as you put it together, once you discuss it with the folks at Wajitas. And then we'll see if that's what we're after. But based on what I'm hearing, we'll still want a report from the administrators there. And I'm thinking it would be something to the effect of how the soft open went. Just an overview of how they thought that went, reception from the parents, from the students, what the staff thought, things of that nature would be kind of like their report, since there is no numbers or anything like that.
Could we do 45 minutes with certified with Chris and
Hey, wondering, I was being told if we could change the date of that, since it's the first day after the soft start. Should we give them another week?
Yes, definitely. They're under enough stress and pressure right now to get everything going that, yes, they don't need the pressure of us showing up.
or possibly even instead of just 1 week, 2? I mean, I'd be fine with the 22nd instead of the 15th. Depending upon what their requests are. And then in terms of the staff meetings, if we did 45 minutes with OEA members and 45 minutes with PSE members, with the district office and Chris getting 15 of each of those, and then the board getting 30.
Okay, so we're going to shoot for the 22nd of September, Jen, and or everyone, and we will relay your message there, Jen, on what our preference is, and as soon as we hear from them, we will be notified as to the format, the agenda, and all the particulars of the visit for the 22nd of September. Anything else on that, guys? All right, moving on, a facilities discussion.
I had this crazy idea, and I'm afraid that some of you are going to freak out when I even suggest this. Since we do not have students on campus, and I don't really see that happening this year, we do have some funds. What if we tried to put a multi-purpose room at one of our elementaries that doesn't currently have it? The one that has the largest population. We would be disrupting the least amount of people at this time. I know that the concerns might be, well, we're not sure what funding is going to look like. The state's going to always have to fund us. The federal government will always have to fund us. We might have to do some things a little bit more lean than we had been in the past, but we have funds in, and the estimated amount was 2.5 million to do one of these buildings. I don't think that there's going to be a better time that's going to be least disruptive than right now.
Jen, you did say that would kind of get to us. It did. So it does take time to do these things. I don't believe they could even be ready. Even if we decided today, it would be a year before they could even start construction. And I'm hoping to be back in the classroom before then. 2, is it wise to jump in and say we're going to spend that amount of money when we're not even clear on the state budget? That could severely change after they get back in session, because this is going to hit the state pretty severely, I think, in a few months. And I have a feeling that school districts are going to see some of that impact. So I don't know if it'd be wise to get in and start spending that amount of money right at this moment.
I can understand what you're saying, but if we're having to rely upon our excess funds to pay for yearly budgets, that's not a safe thing to have to rely upon that either. And the state still will have to fund us.
When you say $2.5 million, Jen, that we have, are you talking about the capital projects fund, or what money?
I'm talking about the undesignated funds. We would still not tap into the 7.1 mandatory 10% with the amount that's in there. And the 2.5 million estimate that we got was to build a gym that would be equivalent for when we were thinking K-8. I know we're not thinking K-8 anymore, but to make it a multi-purpose room, a large space that could have assorted things being used for it, and then even the build so that potentially classrooms could be added on, or even add classrooms right now. Then when and if we do go to a bond for high school remodel or a whole other campus or whatever, then we can say we only have 2 more elementaries that need a multi-purpose room because we've already done one and we built one the way we want them to be built. I just wanted to put the idea out there for us to discuss doing something now.
Sharon, Lindsay, anything you guys would care to share here?
Well, I would love to have a new multi-purpose room at all of them, but financially, I think we should save our money. We just don't know what's lying ahead, and we don't know what the economy in Othello is going to be. It's a great idea though, Jen.
I'm always a fan of putting things out there, especially when it comes to facilities for the community. So, I mean, if we wanted to start moving forward in some capacity, I'm totally on board with that. I'm a little nervous. I would like to maybe give it another 3 months, although then we lose our time window. But I just want to see where registration levels end up. Honestly, I feel like a lot of things are just up in the air until after November 3rd. That's just my personal opinion, but I just feel like until the dust settles after the vote, I'm not sure we should make any big moves. But I am totally on board at any and all times to move forward with facilities talks for Othello. But I just want to hold on for a minute.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. You know, I would love to see multi-purpose rooms and all, but I just think at this time we need to just kind of get through all this that we're going through now and wait for the dust to settle, then see what we look like.
Absolutely. I appreciate the idea as well, Jen. And it's one, as you can tell, we're on board with you. Ideally, we wish we could follow through with our plans to have all the elementaries equipped this way. But I think it'd be prudent and we'd be exercising due diligence if we did wait. And I agree with Lindsay. Vote day is going to be crucial. I think some things will either go one way or the other, depending on the outcome of the vote. But, you know, it's always good to plant the seed, put it in our minds. And if shortly after that, we see a window where there is an opportunity to perhaps go forward with some of these things, well, we've already got the idea, the thoughts there, and we'll just move on from that.
Can we add facilities discussion to our November 9th meeting?
Note is being taken as we speak.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item B3, student representative reports. Elise, Lauren, the floor is yours.
I do not have anything to share. I really don't have anything to say either.
All right, well, we appreciate you guys being on tonight, listening to, state of the state, what's going on, what isn't going on, things that are happening. Appreciate your guys' involvement, and thank you for being with us tonight. Moving on to item C1. I will entertain a motion to approve required approvals.
I have some questions before we get there. At the last meeting, Dr. Hirsch, you talked about you expected to have an SRO candidate for the board in the as an approval for personnel, but there is no SRO. Can you, which is a school resource officer, a second one. Can you give us the details as to why?
Absolutely. We have been talking with Chief Shank. He did send over a contract. There is a hitch in the contract. In our conversations, our assumption is that we would pay X number of dollars per year, roughly around $50,000. On the fourth year of the grant, it has us in the contract paying $100,000, a little bit over $100,000. So that was unexpected costs. So what we're doing is we're working it out with the city, working it out with Chief to see what we can do to really mitigate that cost, maybe spreading out that fourth year over all of the years, because what they have a 3-year grant, so they didn't account for that fourth year in their budget. So that means that the district would have to assume all of those costs. It was just unexpected, so we're just not ready to bring that to the board at this time. I do expect that we'll be bringing it probably at the next board meeting. And again, it's really a matter of just working with the chief, working with the city to figure out how we're going to look at that fourth year of the grant.
Is there something that says that it has to be a 4-year contract instead of a 3-year, since their grant is for 3 years?
Yeah, I could check with the chief to see if we can make it a 3-year contract as well.
Okay. And then accounts payable. So there's a 2020.21 in accounts payable, and then there's a 19.20 line, and I had never seen anything like that. Can you go into the payroll and accounts payable warrants, please? So I just wanted to fully understand why, for having two different generals. There's general 2021, and then this next page is general 1920.
Yeah, so I could speak on behalf of that. So the main difference between general 2020 and or 2020, 2021 and 1920 is that those are 2 different fiscal years. Although the fiscal year for 2020, 2021 does not begin until September 1st, staff are allowed to and have begun to encumber and purchase items for the following school and fiscal year. So that's why you are seeing 2 general funds.
Okay. And then some of the specifics on all of these different sheets is K-Log Inc. for $24,000.
Yeah, so that expense is for furniture for McFarland Middle School. Now that the preschool will no longer use the 600 wing, MMS purchased furniture to furnish those classrooms.
Okay. Firefly computers for $717,000. I know that we have the contract typically with them for the Chromebooks, but can you tell us how many Chromebooks is $717,000 and what different grades or different groups those are all earmarked for?
Yeah, so we purchased 2,600 Chromebooks, and 45 of them were allocated for SPED. 135 of them were for bilingual students. 65 will be for CTE students. 1,054 will be for elementary students, and 1,301 will be for MMS, OHS, DOHS, and extras on hand at the technology department.
Okay. Mount Lock and Key for $44,000.
So that was door hardware and locks for the gym doors at OHS and MMS. We had the original install from the remodels were a sub-design that were constantly being repaired by our maintenance department. So they had to put hardware in to replace those.
So this should fix all of that then, you're saying, for the continual repairs.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then WSIPC, what does that stand for?
So let me get you the actual definition, but that one was for translation for IEP reports and our WASWG registration fees for building secretaries. But give me just a quick second.
So IEP report translation, is there not someone in SPED that can do translation, or is that not something that goes to a building secretary that is normally a translator?
I will have to look into that and get back to you.
Okay. And then just whatever that long initials stand for.
Yeah, give me just a second. So it stands for Washington School Information Processing Cooperative.
Okay. That's all under the AP stuff. I had some questions on what used to be called long-term subs, and now under the certificated, not a specific person in this category, not a specific person under that list, but just in general. They used to be listed as long-term subs when we were approving them. And now I know that the state changed the rules. Can you remind us what those rules are and how some of those kinds of details? Let's start there.
So we have an opportunity to conditionally certify our teachers that we recruit who do not have a teacher cert. So they have to meet qualifications. They either have experience in the classroom or have experience in the subject area. So we as a district can sponsor them and conditionally certify them for 2 years. When the 2 years are up and if they still have not attained a teacher cert, then we have to post the job open to qualified applicants. If we still have not found qualified applicants for that position, we can choose to renew their conditional cert as long as they've obtained continuing credit clock hours and it's verified through OSPI.
Okay, so you said a 2 years thing. Is this the second year or is this the third year that this has been this way?
We're at year 2.
Okay. How many of those? So what's the title? What do we call them now instead of long-term subs?
They're conditionally certificated. So for us,
okay.
they're certificated folks.
How many of those do we have this school year?
We have 17.
How many did we have last year?
We had 18 last year.
What percentage of our certificated staff are conditionally certificated this year?
We have about 5% of the certificated staff that are conditionally certified.
Okay, so one less than last year, and it's about 5%. All right, those are the big key numbers that I want to know. Thank you. I'm ready to approve the required approvals. Board President, thanks for all of my question time. If anybody else has some.
I'd like to have a question, please.
Yes, go ahead, Jim. Sure.
I'm not sure the right process if I'm doing this right, but how to pull something out of content, and that this has nothing to do but under the classified. I would like a little more time. I don't know how this, if I'm doing this correctly.
Can you state your request?
Under the certified or the classified, excuse me. I would like to just have a little more time to discuss the new assignment for,
Sharon, can I give you the words that I think that you want to say?
yes,
so that
please,
it's
I would
officially correct?
appreciate the executive director of business. I would like to have a little more time to ponder on this. Yes, please help me.
You would like to pull from the required approvals that position or that whole section?
Oh, just that position.
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
I think what you're going to want to say is that you would like to pull from required approvals that position and put that on the next meeting. I'm not sure at this stage if since we've approved the agenda, if that can be done, but that's the
Okay,
phrase.
what needs to happen is that I need a second to approve required approvals. If there is no second, we go back to a different motion. So is there a second to approve required approvals? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Okay. Sharon, would you like to state your motion?
Okay, I would like to move.
I would like to move that we pull under the required approvals, the hires of the executive director of business until the next meeting.
Okay, there's been a motion by Director Schutte to approve required approvals with the removal of the hire of the executive director of business till the next meeting.
I second.
Okay, there's been a motion made, a second as well. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Moving on, superintendent informational items. Do we have any questions for either of the items that are under superintendent informational items? Chris, do you have anything you'd like to announce? Any question on either of those documents?
No, just that the track is looking great. It's nice to see it coming along.
I do have a question on the financial. Let's actually talk about the track first. Do we have a timeline? It does look amazing. I'm totally there with you, Ken. I drove by today. It looks amazing. But my question is a date of completion.
Yeah, we're gonna let Greg weigh in. I know that he was driving up to Everett today to pick up the stencil. He had to turn back around. They did not have it ready for him. So they're promising to deliver the stencil for the logo tomorrow. But Greg, you have any other information for us?
Yes, can you hear me? Okay. I just want to say thank you for letting me talk tonight. I just want to go over a few things that have happened in the past. We approved the track to be reconditioned on February 24th. And at that time, our projected schedule was to start the week after school was out and finish about the middle of August. Then, of course, we all know what happened after February. So in May, we gave a project update that we were going to start earlier. We ended up starting the end of June, about 2 weeks earlier. We gave another project estimated completion schedule at that meeting, at which we didn't take into account graduation, OHS graduation. So we would have been projected to finish about the first week of August, but we'd had to delay that for 2 weeks for the OHS graduation. So we should have been done about last week, about this week, and we are projected to finish this week as long as the stencil can arrive in time. So we're right on within our schedule that we had planned, and hopefully we can open it up next week on Monday.
Thank you very much. That's amazing to hear. Starts and stops and all kinds of that is so much fun in between and all of that. I'm ready to go on to financial. Does anybody have anything else about the track? Okay, financial. My question is, can we go into that report? Let's keep scrolling up and I'll tell you when to stop. There's a few things I wanted to point out before we get to the thing that I wanted to point out. Okay, so let's look here for a second. So actual for the year from revenues is higher than expenditures. Even though our percentages are are off by like 9, 11, something like that, in the 10 range, we still have more revenues than expenditures. Okay, now can you go to transportation, please? And all of these different charts are all the same, that our revenues are actual revenues and actual expenditures. The revenues are always greater than, and the percentages are not flags because of that. But expenditures here are a lot higher than both our budget and our actual revenues. Can someone explain that detail, please?
Yeah, I could speak on behalf of that. So it looks like we get our funding for our transportation in August of each year. So we are receiving those funds this month. So you should see in our financials for August next month that the percentages will be a little bit more comparable.
Great. Okay, so that'll make up next month is what I'm hearing, and it'll all look better then.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. That's all I have for financials.
Okay, before we move on, I am going to try to do this correctly. I don't know exactly the right way to do this, but I need to motion that we amend item C16 under required approvals with the deletion of the resignation of the executive assistant to the superintendent. Since we have made a decision on a delay, we have to correct that to state that. So I move we correct or we approve item C16 with the deletion of a resignation.
So you're moving, right? I'm seconding that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to reapprove C1-6 in required approvals to include the omission of the resignation of the executive assistant to the superintendent. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Good catch, because I was just thinking about that one on my mind.
Okay. Moving on to item D1, board response to monitoring reports. We have 4 survey monkeys that we answered. We will begin with GP7, BSR governance process, organization of board meetings, conduct and other. Question number 1.
Mike?
Yeah.
Mike, please. You're in GPs. I think we need to start with ELs, and you're echoing. And so I think someone else in the room has their mic on.
Thank you for that. I am getting ahead of myself. You're absolutely correct. Okay, we'll begin with EL5, budget planning. Question number 1, a failure to be consistent with the board's established priorities. All 5 answered in compliance. Question number 2, A failure to provide the annual budget required for board approval at least 30 days before approval is needed. This report should be designed in a format that is easily understood by both the board and the community. The report should include both a summary version and a comprehensive version. 5, answered in compliance. There was a comment. A great job was done to make this detailed, understandable, and accurate for both the summary and comprehensive versions. Thank you. Question number 3, a failure to allocate no more than 80% of the district's projected gross revenues to compensation and benefits, including student services contractor. 5, answered in compliance. Thank you for the detail in the report showing this percentage instead of having us search for it. Question number 5, a failure to allocate no more than 10% of the district's projected compensation to administrative compensation, including student services contractor. 5, answered in compliance. Same comment as above applies to here also. Question number 5, plans for the reduction without approval of the board of unassigned general fund balance for any fiscal year to less than 10% of district's projected gross revenues. 5, answered in compliance. Question number 6, a failure to highlight new sources of revenue as well as new areas of expenditures when compared to the prior year budget. 5, answered in compliance. Okay, we will move on to, do we keep the comments that are on there?
I think we don't include the one that says same as above, but we modify the other one to say, can you go scroll up to the next question? Thank you for the detailed report showing the percentages for staff and administration.
You want that comment included in question? Gotta go back to it.
It doesn't have to be there. The other comment above, it would actually be, I think, appropriate for the entire report and hit all of the details, or could be modified to include this sentiment.
So if I hear you correctly, Jen, thank you for the detail in the report showing this percentage instead of us having to search for it, would apply also to question number 4 instead of the same comment as above. You're mute.
Muted. Can you scroll up to the page above this one? So if we kept this comment, detailed, understandable, and accurate for both the summary and comprehensive version, and for including the percentages for staff and administration, so we don't have to search for it.
So a combination of both, if I hear you correctly, into one.
If that's
comment.
okay with everyone else.
I'm okay with that. Okay, I see some good nods. Okay, so we'll modify that to include both of those comments in a modified version for all answers. Is that correct, Jen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. EL number 6, budget execution. Question number 5.
This time, Mike, this time, will you read the
Well, I'll start. I should have done the other one.
the top part?
Other
Thank
EL.
you.
With respect to the execution of the budget and the actual ongoing condition of the district's financial health, the superintendent shall not cause or allow a material deviation from the annual budget or budget policy adopted by the board, cause or allow any fiscal condition that is inconsistent with achieving the board's ends or places the long-term financial health of the district in jeopardy. Therefore, the superintendent shall not cause or allow, question number 1, a failure to settle payroll debts in a timely manner. We had 3 that said we were in compliance. 2 said we're in compliance with the following exceptions. There's a comment there that states with the new PSC contract, it came with 2 months of retro pay for increased wages, for wage increases, PSC employees were notified that they would receive it on their November paychecks. It was not received until their paychecks at the end of March 2020. I know that we received an email clarifying this. Don't know if the author of this comment was satisfied with that response or wants to make any modifications.
I was the author of the comment, and I did see the clarification last night, and I have an issue with the clarification. And I'm going to go back to January 10th. I met with Chris personally on this issue. Before I went and talked to Chris, I stopped and asked a PSC, one of the members of the negotiating team, if this issue was resolved yet, because I did not want to bring it up if it was resolved. I got the quick, simple answer of no. So that's when I continued to address the issue with Chris. And I went in and talked to Chris and told him about the value of PSC employees. And that's why some of them felt like they were second class, because we were not backing them up or fulfilling our duty. So when we were going through the negotiations, I knew they went past the time of the original contract. And I believe there was some discussion about retro pay if they would get paid. Now, I don't ever remember a date being set at that time. But after my January 10th meeting, actually, when I met with Chris, you, when I first talked to you about this, you kind of seemed like, I won't say that you did.
Ken, I think we've lost your connection. If you can hear us, you're frozen and no words.
I can hear you.
You sent us out an email on to all the board members on January 12th, stating exactly where you were at. And I could read this whole email if you want, or the board members could go back to January 12th to read it. But in the reply that you gave to us last night, you alluded to that this was all taken care of in December. And by your email that you replied back to me in January, it looks like you were just getting it done then, because you even come back and it's you listed a bunch of the challenges to get this done. And you said, despite these challenges, we will be moving forward with the retro pay for the PSC members. I have provided clear direction to Jeanette to ensure the retro pay in the March 31st payment. 2021 pay for all PSC members. Have met with PSC President Minnie Castro to inform her of the information. I know you did meet with, after I met with you that day, I know you did meet with a team of the PSC group later that day after I met with you too. So that's why I think you alluded to your explanation last night and said it was done earlier, but I think it was done in January after I addressed it with you. So that's why
I think what I shared in my email, Ken, is that there were actually a couple of meetings. We did meet in January, and I do have that documentation as well. And I think I also shared in my email to the board that there was a subsequent meeting as well, which is probably that meeting that you're referring to in January. I think my point was in sharing this with the board is that as that comment reads, that it alludes that the district made a commitment that we would pay at a certain time, which was never discussed. So I think I was clarifying to the board that that conversation was never discussed during negotiations. We had to actually sit down a couple of times to really work out. And you're right, in that January email, we did come to a resolution, and we did share this is what's going to happen, and this is what date it's going to happen. But we shared that date again in my email that I explained last night, because At that time, finance office was working on several other issues, so they couldn't just stop what they were doing. And we all agreed to make sure that the retro pay was going to be in the March 31st paycheck. But I think my point was just to clarify the message that was written there.
Yeah, and I
But
said
you are right, Ken. There was actually more than one meeting. There was a meeting in December, and then we had a final meeting, which I shared in my email last night, to really clarify. And that's when we came to an agreement of when the retro pay will be given. But I think there was no intent on the district's behalf to slight anyone. And that's what really the conversation was between PSC and the district. It was just never discussed. And I think PSC acknowledged that. And then we acknowledged that moving forward, that we would make sure that we would discuss a timeline of when that would be given, if that does happen again.
so, and I said this in the very beginning when I started to talk. I don't know if a timeline was discussed with them in the negotiations, but I do remember some conversation about there would be retro pay. I just feel 5 months after the fact, as it states in this, a failure to settle all payroll debts in a timely manner. To me, 5 months is not timely. So that's why I did this.
Okay, so just to clarify, Chris, and this is me just putting this out there, I disagree then with the comment that PSC was notified that they would receive it in November paychecks. What I'm hearing from you, Chris, is that was never conveyed.
Correct. The district never sent out that message. That was actually an assumption that was made, and that message was actually sent out by PSC, not by the district. So that's what I was sharing, that what's shared here sort of alludes that the district made a commitment, which we never made. It was really misunderstanding, if anything, which we agreed to finally in January because of other issues that finance office was working on.
Currently, the vote is 3-2. Does anyone want to change their vote?
Can you say that again, Jen?
Currently, the vote for this is 3-2. Does anyone want to change their vote according to this conversation or the follow-up email that came? If that's the case, then currently it is considered in compliance by majority.
So my question is the comment. Do we want to keep the comment or not? I would like to strike the comment.
I think the comment's going to be confusing if we keep it in compliance to have the comment myself. Ken, is there anything that you want to modify with the comment that you would still like to keep parts of it or modify it so that you feel like it is still accurate, but that we know it's still in compliance, that we would possibly approve?
I don't know where I could modify it because I did not directly say the district contacted them. I just said PSC employees were notified, but I did not mention the district in that. The only thing I'd do is maybe strike out that they were notified. But I still stand by that, 5 months was not a timely manner in this one.
So what if it was to say with the new PSC contract, it came with 2 months of retro pay for wage increases. This retro pay took 5 months and that is considered not a timely manner? Is that something you agree with?
I would agree upon that one.
If it was marked in compliance with that phrasing, I would be okay with the comment, knowing that then we would obviously know that there was a big discussion that happened, even though it was still marked in compliance.
So, and even by me marking it, I did mark in compliance with.
There's
the
5,
exception.
I was gonna say, there's 5 of us that said that it's in compliance. The actual discussion is just the comment or
Yes.
the verbiage of the comment. Ken, so you would modify it to not include PSE employees were notified that they would receive it on their November paychecks?
Yes, and also add in there that 5 months was not a timely manner. Got to remember that mute button.
I am just receiving more documentation where there was an actual conversation with that happened between Jeanette, and Minnie. So I guess we'll reword it to say what Ken is asking, and then I still want to move that the comment is not included underneath there. I'm one, guys. Remember that.
I'm fine if it's not included as well. I was trying to come up with a happy medium, but I'd be fine with if there's no comment. I disagree with Ken's concerns, but I still wanted to make it so that those two, both of those that voted in compliance with an exception, felt like we would be able to remember this if we came back to it. So I'm fine without the comment, any part of it. Others?
I'm fine to lose the comment.
I was the other one, and the reason I did it, I didn't write anything because I got to the bottom and I sent it in, was that several of the PSE people were expecting to get the payment in before the holidays. And I just thought that if they were thinking it, that they were told or misled. So, but I don't have a comment there to say that, but that was why I did it. Because if they were believing they were going to get it after such a long time of waiting before they got everything together, that it's not fair when they were waiting for this money and it didn't come on time. So.
Okay, we have 3 that agree that the comment be deleted from the question. So comment will not be included in the report.
Mike, you're muted. Mike, you're muted. Mike.
Wow, now I got to reread all this, guys. I get so focused on here. Question number 2. Reports are finally required by any state or federal agency to be overdue or inaccurately filed. 5 answered in compliance. Question number 3, a failure to consistently and fairly pursue receivables after a reasonable grace period. 5 answered in compliance. A failure to publish a financial condition statement annually as a part of the district's annual report to the public. 5 answered in compliance. There is a comment that reads, these answers are mainly big picture items that come from the management level. However, without a fully functioning and rock star team of ladies in the finance office, these answers would not be what they are, all positive. I want to congratulate them for the amazing work that they do. I echo those sentiments and would want that comment to stay. Head nods? Yes? Okay. Okay, that is EL5. Moving on. EL7. Protection and maintenance of district facilities, short and long-term facilities program. The superintendent shall not fail to ensure that the district facilities are adequate, safe, clean, inviting, maintained, and conducive to teaching and learning. Therefore, the superintendent shall not cause or allow. Question number 1, a failure to provide a short and long-range maintenance plan that includes a lifespan, list of all major components of all facilities, future financial plans for the maintenance, care, and replacement of facilities in reference to the lifespan in a timely manner. 5, answered in compliance. There's a comment. This was an intensive report to create. Thank you for the thoroughness of this exhaustive report. Very good comment. Question number 2, any person to acquire, encumber, or dispose of real property without approval of the board. 4, answered in compliance. 1, in compliance with the following exception. Failure of the superintendent to properly follow through with the board's decision not to lease the school district 80 acres of property for the 2020 year. Does that comment stay there?
So this was my comment also. And I'm going back and I went through policy on the situation that we had with the leased property. And I could not find anywhere in policy where else this would fit, because I'm using the word encumber, which also could possess the lease of the property. And so I felt this was the only place that we could put this in. And I felt that we still needed to address that issue in policy somewhere without writing a whole new policy. So that's why I did it in this spot.
Originally, I did not agree with where this comment was put, but with Ken's explanation of the word encumber and that he looked for anywhere else to put this, I have to say, I agree. I would still be fine with it. It's obviously still in compliance. But I, at this time, would like to keep the comment.
Lindsay, Sharon?
I think we should keep the comment also.
Okay, comment stays. Question number 3.
Mike,
Actions that
on the
violate
first,
materially deviate from voter-approved building and renovation projects, state law, state regulations, procurement code, or building codes. 5, answered in compliance.
Mike,
Question 4, a failure to provide the board the current plan for public use of buildings and grounds that includes definition of permitted uses, a fee structure that is supportive of community needs, clear delineation of user expectations, consequences and enforcement procedures for public users who fail to follow the established rules. 5, answered in compliance. Question number 5, a failure to provide and maintain an evacuation plan for all facilities. 5, answered in compliance. Question number 6, a failure to obtain insurance coverage against theft, casualty, and liability losses in accordance with risk management pool direction. 5, answered in compliance.
Mike, on the first comment of the very first.
Balance of student diversity.
Stop.
Superintendent shall
Stop.
not fail to make progress towards.
Hey, Mike, wait.
Mike, we need to go back to the last one. That first comment, we didn't discuss if we're going to keep it or not.
The lease comment?
No, the intensive report to create.
Thank you for your thoroughness with this exhaustive report. I thought that would be an easy one to keep on there.
Right, but that's just you and me. That's only 2 of us.
Director
Sorry.
Prowse, what do you think? Thumbs up, Ken, is that what that was? Okay, the comment will remain on question number 1 of EL7.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
EL14, balance of student diversity. Superintendent shall not fail to make progress towards a balance in student diversity across all schools in the district, specifically our ELL, special education, and low-income student populations. The superintendent, that's the only question on there. 5, answered in compliance. There is a comment that reads, although a tough and complex task, I appreciate the district's effort in trying to comply with this EL. Should that comment remain? I see a thumbs up from Jen.
Yes.
I see a head nod from Ken. Lindsay is shaking her head side to side. Don't know what that means.
Yes.
Okay, so we got 3 people that agree that the comment should be there. So the comment will stay on EL 14. Okay, moving on to board self-monitoring. GP 7, organization of board meetings. Question number 1, board meetings will be scheduled in compliance with the law and is deemed by the board to be in the best interest of the district and community. The board will function through regular business meetings, study sessions, sometimes referred to as board workshops, special meetings, board retreats, emergency meetings, executive sessions closed to the public, and exempt meetings closed to the public. 5 answered in compliance. Question number 2, the required approval section enables the board to efficiently deal with matters that have been delegated to the superintendent, but by law must be approved by the board or which are routine matters. Throughout the year, the board will attend to required approvals items as expeditiously as possible. 5 answered in compliance. All board meetings will be conducted in an orderly and businesslike manner using Robert's Rules of Orders, revised and updated in 1993, as a guide, except when such rules are superseded by the board's bylaws or policies. The order of business will be that indicated in the agenda. Any additions or changes in the prepared agenda may be requested by the superintendent or a board member and must be approved by majority of vote of the board of directors present. 5 answered in compliance. Question number 4 is all meetings shall be open to the public with the exception of executives and exempt sessions authorized by law. While other items of business may be discussed at a special meeting, no final action can be taken on the topics that have not been identified on the printed agenda. 5 answered in compliance. And question number 5, in order to maintain its commitment to excellence in governance, to the provisions of this policy and improve its own performance, the board commits to the following actions. There is 1 answer: honesty, integrity, and transparency in our meetings. Do we keep the comment there? Thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, comment remains. Moving on. GP 12, process for dealing with a request or a complaint. A board member who receives a request or complaint shall follow the following process. The board member should hear the request complaint for general understanding of persons involved, date, place, and action requested. If necessary, repeat the issue back to confirm understanding. The board member should exercise caution in responding to the complaint or request. Board members should refer parents, employees, and others with complaints directly to the responsible individual closest to the situation as provided in policy BSR 2. The board acts as a unit and may inform the superintendent that they have done this. If deemed necessary, the request complaint shall be referred to the superintendent for appropriate action. If a complaint potentially involves a violation of an executive limitation by the superintendent, it is to be referred to the board president and the superintendent for appropriate action. 5 answered in compliance. And in order to maintain its commitment to excellence in governance, the board provisions of this policy, and improve its own performance, the board commits to the following action. Adhere to GP 12 and handle all complaints according to the process outlined. And the other is remember to follow this GP. Keep the comments. Yes, Ken?
No, the remember one, I don't think that one should be in there. I think that first one handles it.
Okay, we have.
Besides the spelling.
Handle all complaints according to the process outlined. Head nod. Director Prowse. Is that a yes? Okay, moving on. GP 13, Director Districts. The question on here is the Board of Directors, with the assistance of the administration, The Educational Service District and the State Redistricting Commission will develop a plan of proposed director districts within 8 months of any of the following events: receipt of federal decennial census data, consolidation of the districts with one or more other districts, transfer out of territory to or from the district, annexation of territory to or from the district, or approval by a majority of the district's voters of a proposal to divide the district into director districts. 4 answered in compliance, 1 in compliance with the following exception. While there was an approval of the voters to change District 4 to open the position, to change District 4 to an open position, the board decided to wait until after the 2020 census to redistrict. I think that is the correct comment, because that was what was stated that we would do.
And that is actually, again, my statement again, and it's more to remind us that we need to, because it is actually past the 8 months that we were, but we have new board members since the vote of the public took place. And it just kind of was a reminder that we still need to follow up on this procedure and not forget it as soon as the census is out.
So we will keep the comment in there. Yes? Jen is nodding her head.
I think no, because it talks about the census right in the phrasing of the GP. And so I don't think that we need the comment to remind us. Receipt of federal decennial census data. Personally, is my thought.
I need input from Director Prowse or Director Schutte. Lindsay or Sharon, do you guys care to? You're muted, Lindsay. Is she talking? Are you talking, Lindsay?
Sharon, do you think that we should keep the comment or leave the comment?
I think it'd be fine to keep it, because that kind of, if someone wants to look back that was not familiar with the vote that year, they can see this.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm fine to keep it.
Okay, we will keep the comment on the question. Question number 2. In order to maintain its commitment to excellence in governance, to the provisions of this policy and improve its own performance, the board commits to the following actions. There were no comments. Okay, moving on to item E1. Staff compensation and treatment. We've been tossing this one back and forth. I know I have spoken with a few more employees of this district, and not in administrative positions, just regular employees that were basically of the opinion that they just want the right people in those positions. To them, it wasn't important if they lived here or not, but this is still totally open. I know I spoke to a superintendent from a neighboring district, and they do not have this as a policy, as a requirement. But that doesn't mean that, it is the end-all answer to all districts. So don't know if anybody else has done any further research or any comments that they'd care to share tonight.
I've spoken with 2 other admin since our last meeting, and they specifically about this, and they both agreed in district. I don't think that we're mentally ready to discuss this, and I would like to propose that we table it to the next meeting.
I think we've tabled it too many times, and I'm ready to make a motion that we accept the changes on the second one and delete the changes to line 9 and just keep that first sentence in there.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the changes on question number 2 on EL4, staff compensation and treatment, and not include the amendments in question number 9. There was a motion made by Director Johnson. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving EL4, the second reading of it, with the addition of the modifications made to question number 2, deleting the modification to number 9, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries 3-2. Okay, moving on. We will have an exempt meeting at this time. So Talia will make the necessary adjustments.